Hey, good morning, and thanks for waking up with me. So, I'm going to talk to you about change and when you know it's time. So, I was putting on this jacket to come out here and talk to you guys today, and it's getting a little threadbare and it's getting a little worn out. The reality is, I've been dragging this thing around for, I guess, somewhere around 15 years, and I think it's kind of met it's definitely coming up on its end. And I felt that way about it for a while, but I haven't changed it because I just haven't found the right thing I want. I just haven't found the right fit, the right, it's the right weight, it's the right this and that. There's just things about it that I really like that I haven't. That's led me to not change and postpone it for, debatably longer than I should. Who knows? I mean, it's not like there's any big gaping holes in it, but it's getting a little threadbare. It doesn't necessarily represent me well when I'm out, meeting a client. And there's some other things as well. And, as I was thinking about it, it put me onto this subject for today. Many of us are opposed to change, even when we know it's good for us. And, things much more substantial than just a piece of clothing, but the way we live our lives and the things that are going on around us. So just recently we went through an election. And there's a lot of debate going on back and forth for the last several months about, this or that and the quality of life and what that really means and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable and a lot of really interesting opinions that I've been listening to as I'm a pretty avid consumer of news. And it's kind of added to my thinking about how we resist change even when we know it might be the right thing, or when we know it's inevitable and it's going to happen. And if not, we're just simply going to be left back there with our old-fashioned ways and out of place and out of touch and out of step with where the rest of many things around us are going. And it's given me reason to reflect upon myself and my friends and my family and a variety of other people that I interact with, and wonder what they're going through and what the process is for them, what's the steps, what people like you might be dealing with, might be thinking about. If you've listened to me very long at all, I talk about, you got to take responsibility for your life, and the actions that you take are what's going to directly influence your life. And the same is true for the actions that you don't take, right? If you don't make those changes when you know it's time, when you know you should, when you need to let go of some of the old standards, some of the old things that just simply don't, really represent you really well anymore. During the political debates that have been going on through a variety of politicians, I've been hearing people attacked for things they said years ago. It was a different time back then. It was a different way of looking at life. And I'm not saying it was all correct or it was all wrong. It was what it was at the time. And things are different in many ways now, and they will continue to be different over the next years and the next decades, the next century, because that's just the way it is. Things will change. We no longer value some of the things that we thought were absolute because they just simply don't exist anymore. And there's new things coming up in our lives that don't yet exist that will become a higher priority, and a new way of thinking, and a new way of trading, a new way of working, a new way of interacting with our clients, our customers, our families, our friends, and all that. I've had a variety of FaceTime calls with friends to stay in touch this year because of COVID. And that's not my way, but it's the way that has allowed me and some friends to stay in touch, and many others that I'm aware of. And those friends are staying in touch with some of their friends. My mother got onto Facebook this year for the first time in her life. She had rejected being on a computer and wasn't even online in any fashion, no email, no anything. And fortunately, the timing worked out, and I gave her an iPad early this year, which kind of sat around and she dabbled with a little bit because it was a very new technology for her. And she was surrounded by people who really didn't know enough to show her how to do it, or didn't have time to show her how to use it. And so she's had a slow progress, but she's been doing it on her own, and she's figuring it out and doing a lot of things that she never thought about doing before. And it's changed her life. It's put her in touch with people that she hadn't spoke to in years in many cases, and it's given her insight about people, about things that they are writing on their Facebook page or in other social medias that she wasn't aware of, and it's given her clarity, and it's given her a lot of satisfaction and some grief. And I'm sure you can relate to all of that, because I think we all go through the same thing as we look through social media. But social media isn't the devil. The devil's within us. There are bad people around us. There always have been, and there always probably will be, unfortunately, because that's just the nature of the human species. But there's so much good in the world, and there's so many good things to change into, to adapt, to take on, to move forward, to be aware of where things are going, and not be left out in the cold, left being, obsolete and neglected and behind the pace. That's a lot of what I'm doing over the next coming years. I've already set the ball in motion. The fact that I'm talking to you on YouTube right now is part of that. It's part of the process of me changing how I think and how I view the world and how I communicate with the world. This channel is just me talking about life and about what I think is going to help people out and what's going to make things better, and just to give you hopefully incentive to think about things and ponder what's right for you and for your own life. And hopefully to match that against other people, rather than just deciding that your particular dogma is the way the whole world should live. Because the beauty of life is the diversity. And in all levels of nature, that's true. Whether we're talking about the scenery itself, the desert is beautiful, the woodlands are beautiful, the mountains are beautiful, the beaches are beautiful, all those things completely different and have their specific charm. And some of those charms appeal more to us than other things. And, the person right next to you may feel completely the opposite. It doesn't make them wrong, it just makes them different than you. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And our nation's been founded on basically principles just like that. It's about allowing the diversity. It's about encouraging it. And we've long had a history of welcoming in immigrants into this country that we call the United States, and to share lives of very different views and viewpoints, and to blend our cultures together to become a quote-unquote more perfect union. The same thing breaks down to our own individual lives, if you think about it. There's a lot of talk about what we're going to do about friends or family that we might have dropped during the past election, because the divide in our country has gotten very, very deep. And I'm on the fence about some things. And some things I've made the decision that when it comes down to values, when it comes down to morals and ethics, those are what I stand on. That's how I live my life. And it's not to say that they're not going to change over time, but the things that I see for where we are today, I have some very firm beliefs in. And I value those things enough that I have and will continue to make some decisions about the friends and family that I keep in my life, or that I have to move away from. Some I already have. Some I may yet in the future. Because if without our values, what are we? We're just lost and meandering through life and taking no responsibility, no credibility. As a contributor, as a currently very small influencer, as we're frequently called on YouTube, I feel like I have even more responsibility to stand by my values. But even if you're not on YouTube or any other form of social media as a creator, but maybe as a participant, as a spectator, we're all still participants in life. And I think standing by your values and your principles is important. Now, I'm also going to preach tolerance in the mix of that, which is why I'm a little bit on the fence by some things. But at some point, there is a breaking point. We all have to make that decision. Same thing with our jobs, with ourselves, for that matter, which will be another talk coming up this week about how we look at ourselves and what we tolerate from ourselves, the compromises that we might be making in our lives that are to our own betterment, that we don't quite step up and do. So one step at a time, right? Everything in life is best handled if you just take it in small chunks. Take it one bite at a time so you don't choke. That's what I'm doing in life. I'd like to hear from you, know what you're doing, what you see for value, what you're doing with this. And you can like the video or not, you can subscribe or not, that's up to you. But if you find value in what I'm saying, if you find any meaningful purpose in this, I hope you'll share it with somebody else who might need it. I'm going to keep giving you this message and keep passing this on and keep giving you my input on things. And pretty soon I'm hoping to start doing some interviews with people who are of different mind and thinking than I might be, just so we can get a little bit more perspective. Because I think that's what broadens our horizons, and that's what broadens our understanding about people that we don't necessarily hang out with, that we don't necessarily spend our time with. Because there are voices on the other side that may well deserve to be heard. And there are some who are just simply stuck in the past, and they're becoming obsolete, no matter how noisy they are and how loud they scream. Our society is moving forward, and you're best served if you move forward with it in some fashion. How you do that with your values, that's the challenge for all of us. Just my thought for the day. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll share it with somebody who else that might need to hear something like this. They would be interested in knowing that there are people out here thinking and talking about what we do next. I'll talk to you soon.